books because it was so fun. Oh, my foot fell asleep. That is like the worst feeling when your foot falls asleep because like you can't do anything. You could just sit there until it goes away. Oh, it feels so weird. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and today we have my 2-month August and September reading wrap-up. I have decided to do these wrap-ups like more bi-monthly just because it's more fun to talk about more books, so I've been doing bi-monthly wrap-ups and this is the one for August and September. I read some truly amazing books in these past 2 months. Actually, I read a lot on my Kindle too. Let me see. 12 books in the past 2 months, which I feel like is a decent amount of books for me, at least. It was a weird couple months where I have a lot of like end of summer books because of August, and then I was really digging into the fall vibes in the beginning of September. So there's at least like 2 or 3 5 stars in here, which is very exciting. So yeah, let's just start from the beginning. I have my Goodreads up here on my phone, so that is what I am looking at. The first book that I read in August was Shatter Me, and then just recently I read the first novella, Destroy Me. So I'm gonna talk about these together. In my next video is probably gonna be another like Shatter Me series reading vlog because I'm finally getting back into that series. I just finished the novella. I am in the process of reading Unravel Me, so that vlog will be coming soon. I think I gave Shatter Me like 5 stars, and I think I gave like 3-ish stars to this novella. So this book, if you don't know, or the series, is basically about this girl, Juliet, and she has a lethal touch. For whatever reason, she severely injures people when she touches them. She was locked up in an asylum for the beginning of the whole series. Then she was taken by the Reestablishment, which is basically like the government of this like dystopian world, and they were training her to use her as a weapon. And then I don't want to give too many spoilers if you haven't read this book yet, but things transpire. There is a love triangle in this series as well, and I gave this book 5 stars just because I feel like it was just like so cool to go back in like dystopian young adult world, and I loved what they did with the end of this book, if you know what I mean, like how they described where she ends up in the end of this book. It seems like it's gonna be like such a cool series that I'm super excited to get into this fall. And then the novella was Destroy Me. It has both novellas in it, but the one that I read was Destroy Me. Basically, it's what happens after this book from Warner's point of view. Adam Warner, who is the love interest in here, but it starts out as like an enemies to lovers thing. So he is still like enemies with Juliet in this novella. He is like obsessed with her. It was very interesting to get Warner's point of view because he's just portrayed as such a villain in this first book. So I was like, I don't know how this is gonna turn around to be an enemies to lovers, but those are usually the best enemies to lovers where you're like, there's no way this can become an enemies to lovers. It made me like him a little bit more. So those are the first 2 books in the Shatter Me series. The next book I read was on Libby. It was The Last Word by Taylor Adams. I gave this book 3 stars. It was a super popular thriller. It became super popular in the past couple of months. And basically it's about this reader, and she has something tragic happen in her life, and then she decides to isolate herself for months at a time. So she's on this like deserted type beach house area. She reads this one book and she gives it like, I think like negative stars. She gives it a terrible rating, then like does a scathing review online, like not even thinking much of it. And then it turns out that author sees it and decides to stalk her. So that is the thriller part, and that is very scary to me because being a reader that reviews things online, it scares me. So I feel like that definitely added to the experience of reading this book. It was good. It was like your classic thriller where there's like these big twists, and there's a big twist at the end that I kind of saw coming. I don't know if it's just that I don't like these types of thrillers, but I don't love thrillers that are super choppy, where it's just like this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened, and it's like it's supposed to like maintain suspense and everything like that. I definitely read it super fast up until maybe 70%, and then I got a little bit bored. It was a good thriller. I gave it 3 stars. I'm not gonna say much more about that because of the plot of the book. But that was the 3rd book I read. And then I decided to pick up a nonfiction book, The Atomic Habits by James Clear. This book has been super popular forever. basically. I gave it like a 5 stars. It's weird to rate self-help books. I feel like it's like you're sort of rating the advice, which is like all self-help books have decent advice. But I did give this one 5 stars because of the way that it's set up. Like I treated it like a textbook where I highlighted a lot of things, and then after every chapter I tabbed it and marked like this chapter summary, literally just like a textbook. And I thought that it had really good insights into the habits and systems that we build around the things we do in our life. It had really clear sort of like steps to change habits and build better habits, and it has 4 main rules to habit building. And I just feel like this is a book that I can pick up and take advice from throughout the rest of my life, so that is why I give it 5 stars. I think that everyone should read this book. My boyfriend even said that he wants to read this book because it's just that kind of book. It's very clear and concisely written. So he has like little anecdotes of people that have used these steps to change their habits in the real world. So very interesting. I highly recommend it. I think that you should read it if you're into a nonfiction book, and I just, took my time reading this. I picked up What Happens After Midnight, and I think this was in my Mackinac Island vlog. This is by K.O. Walther. It's a new release relatively, and it is by the author of The Summer of Broken Rules, which is a book that I read in my last wrap-up and talked about in my last wrap-up. I loved that book. I gave it 5 stars. I loved everything about it. One thing that's really cool that K.L. Walther does in her books is she has Taylor Swift references. Just like references to her songs and lyrics and everything like that. It's so fun. I don't know if you could read that, but it says, "We went to the moon and then to Saturn," which is like, I love you to the moon and to Saturn. So there's those fun little things that are little Easter eggs in here, and she just came up with another one, I think. She came up with another book very recently that I'm gonna pick up as well. I gave this one 4 stars because it was advertised as a romance, but it's a young adult romance, but I didn't really feel the romance vibe as much, but I had a lot of fun reading it even without that romance vibe, so I gave it 4 stars. It takes place in this boarding school that I was like picturing Zoe 101 the entire time. This girl, Lily, she is graduating. Her ex-boyfriend, and you get this backstory of why they broke up, is basically this senior class's jester. Every year, someone in the senior class pulls a massive prank on the entire school right before graduation, and you try not to get caught by faculty. And he did a very interesting one where he decided to steal the yearbooks, but it went on like a scavenger hunt. It takes place all in pretty much one night. It's them going along their like 7 clues, of course, because Taylor Swift's 7, and leaving those clues for people to find and everything like that to get the scavenger hunt to get the yearbooks back. And he has a whole little crew, so it's very interesting to see the dynamics of their jester group. And then of course Lily's boyfriend is the jester, and then the boyfriend's name is Tag, so you see Lily and Tag sort of like talking about what happened and rekindling that a little bit. But yeah, I recommend. It's a very quick read that is just a good palate cleanser, so it was good. And then I read Collided, which is the 2nd book in the Dirty Air series on my Kindle. I read Throttled in the summer, and then I read Collided in August. It's about F1 racing and the guys of F1 racing, like their romances and everything like that. So this one follows Liam and Maya, who is the love interest in Throttled, the 1st book in the Dirty Air series, Maya's best friend. So I loved Sophie and Liam, and you could kind of tell during Throttled that there was something going on between Sophie and Liam. So this is their story. It was good. I gave it 3.5 stars. I don't know, something about the Dirty Air series is odd to me. Like, I want to love it so bad, but it just misses the mark for me sometimes, where it's like the characters are just like, they go from like 0 to 100 so fast, and I don't love like that sort of trope. She focuses a lot on like the physicality of the relationship, where I like to see the build up, having a connection that's not just physical. And I feel like in the Dirty Air series, at least the first 2 books, it was very, very physical. So I don't know, not my favorite love story, but it was cute. I mean, they had more fun, like little elements that weren't just about the love story in here, which was cool. And the F1 racing does interest me. I know a lot of people don't like it because of the F1 racing aspect of it, but I like F1 racing and everything like that, so I thought it was interesting. But yeah, Collided, 3.5 stars. It was better than Throttled because I liked Liam and Sophie's relationship, and there was like some more depth to it. We'll see. I hear that the 3rd book wrecked. I want to read that this month. I hear that the 3rd book is really, really good. Like 3rd and 4th books are people's favorites. So yeah, that was that book. Float by Kate Marchant in August. I gave it 4.5 stars. It was so cute. It's a young adult book, and it's interesting because she originally wrote this on Wattpad. I think she originally started when she was like 15 years old, and now she's like 10 years later, and she finally published it. So I think that I liked the story behind that so much that I picked it up. Not as much a romance, but more of like a coming of age type thing. Like you're not gonna, it's a young adult book, so nothing gets like super serious or anything like that. It's about Waverly, who grew up in Alaska, and she goes to Florida to stay with her aunt for a month. And she, all her life, has never really had a close-knit group of friends because of the nature of her parents' jobs. They're very famous, acclaimed researchers that like really had no time to be parents. They were focusing more on their research, and Waverly was like following them around on their excursions, and she never really had like a close-knit group of friends. So of course she goes to Florida, which is completely out of her element, and then she meets her close-knit group of friends, and the boy next door, Blake, is where the love interest lies. And it kind of starts out as a little bit of an enemies to lovers, but the way that they become lovers, I feel like was appropriate. Like it was gradual and more realistic, I guess, than some other books. And it was just cute. Like I loved her whole entire friend group and everything about it. It was very nostalgic and cute and a great summer book. So that one got 4.5 stars. Also in my Mackinac Island vlog, I read Forever Never by Lucy Score, which is a chunky book. I gave this book 4 stars. I was reading it while I was in Mackinac Island, which is where this takes place. So it was just kind of cool to read about all the places that I was actually going in like real time. So I gave it 4 stars. It's your classic Lucy Score book. She tends to write like manic pixie dream girls. I think I talked about this in another video more in depth that I will link right here. So if you're more interested in hearing a more in-depth review of it, then go watch that one. But this one was cute. It was your basic Lucy Score book where there's this romance between Remy and Brick, but there is like an age gap, and it's not crazy. I think it might be like 7 years. It tells it in a past and present tense, where basically you get Remy and Brick when they were younger, and Remy was dating Brick's brother, and then you get their current timeline where Remy is grown up, Brick is grown up, and she went off to become an artist in Chicago, and then she came back to Mackinac Island because she's in some sort of trouble. So there is a mystery element to it, like all Lucy Score books. I feel like that mystery was such a huge part of it. The romance was also a very huge part of it, but the mystery was too, but it was all wrapped up within like 1 or 2 chapters, which I didn't love. I don't love when books do that because there's like so much buildup. He's a very like protective, serious type guy, and then she is like your manic pixie dream girl, your sunshine girl. It has more deeper elements to it. I feel like look up trigger warnings if you're interested in reading this book, because I feel like some things mentioned in here could be triggering. But yeah, that was a 4-star book. It was good, but I think I'm gonna take a little bit of a break from Lucy Score books besides the Things You Never Got Over series, because I really want to read Lucian and Sloane's book. And then next I read The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. This was in my random number wheel chooses how many hours I read video. So I explained this a lot in that video. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. I think looking back, I might give it like 4.75 stars, like just almost a 5-star, but it did not give me that 5-star feeling. But it was just so involved. Like the storyline was so clever to me. It's a dark academia novel, but it also has little elements of fantasy, like realism to it. And I really liked how Olivia Blake did it. It was kind of confusing to read sometimes because she does talk about very complex physics and philosophy concepts. So it was kind of hard to understand at some parts. I would just have to read the same paragraph over and over again to understand what she was talking about. But it was cute. It was good. And I am definitely going to read the next book, The Atlas Paradox, which is out right now. And then the 3rd book is coming out, I think, in the next year. I'm definitely gonna follow along this book. It's basically about these 6, they're called like medians or something, like medians. They're basically magicians that have different powers. Like there's a naturalist that can make plants grow and she can hear plants, and then there's a person who can read minds, and then there's 2 people that are physicists which can basically like warp physics. I really liked the way that she told it and the way that we got the point of view of all of the 6 magicians, of the 6 of the Atlas 6, and there is a twist at the end that I did not see coming. I got a little bit of a spoiler. I saw a name because I flipped ahead to see how many pages there were, so don't do that. So I got a little bit of a spoiler, but if I didn't get that spoiler, I would have never known. I think it got me into dark academia genre. I'm gonna read more of the dark academia type books because it was so fun. So the next book I read, I also read an ebook of. It is One of Us is Back, the third and last book in the One of Us is Lying series. I think I ended up giving it a 3.75, the last installment of the One of Us is Lying trilogy, which is a young adult mystery thriller series. It was a fun series that I really liked a few years ago when I read it, and now to go back into Bayview and into that world, it was really fun for me, and it explains more of the first book. I feel like you don't have to read this book if you read One of Us is Lying and One of Us is Next. You might not have to read One of Us is Back, because it just sort of expands more on that mystery. It was fast-paced, as all young adult mystery thrillers are. We got to go back into Bayview. Another mystery is coming, of course. We also get more glimpse into Simon and Jake in the past, which was an interesting perspective. And then we have the best book that I have literally not stopped thinking about since I closed. Like, I am literally on this TikTok now. I am on the Fourth Wing TikTok now because this book was amazing. This gets 1,000,000 trillion stars and I cannot stop thinking about it. I understand the hype. I actually have a whole reading vlog on it. So go watch that if you want my live reactions and everything. But it was so good, and I'm so excited for Iron Flame, which is coming out in November, and I already have it pre-ordered with the sprayed edges, so I am so excited. I feel like I do not have to tell you what this book is about, because I feel like if you were anywhere at all on the internet, then you would know that this book existed. And I have a whole spoiler section in the Fourth Wing reading vlog. If you read it, go watch that because I want to know if we had the same thoughts. She goes through all of these trials before she gets her dragon. It's interesting because she uses her smarts to best the other riders that have been training to be riders their entire life, so obviously have an advantage over her. There is a found family aspect in it that I love. You do have a little Reese and Tamlin action, if you know what I mean. It was just so good, and I cannot stop thinking about this book. I love Tarn and Andarna. I'm not gonna say who they are, but I just love their whole dynamic with Violet and Zayden Ryerson. The best book boyfriend there ever was. Yes, that was the Fourth Wing. Such a good book. And then the last book that I read, actually I'm in still the middle of reading. We have one more day until the end of September, so I will be finishing this today. It is The Mistake by Elle Kennedy. This is the second book in the Off-Campus series. I've been reading this book for weeks. It's just not holding my attention. I feel like I loved the deal and I wanted to get back into the Off-Campus series. Something about this book is just not holding my attention at all. I can read one chapter and then I stop, and then I wait for hours, and then I read another chapter and then I stop. So I'm gonna make myself finish this today to just be done and get on to the third one, which is The Score, which I feel like is gonna be a little bit better. I feel like I'm just so much out of the off-campus world that I need to almost read these books back to back to get back into it. It's basically a second chance romance. It's a hockey player romance series, and this hockey player is John Logan and his love interest is Grace. They have like one night where they have like basically your classic college one night stand. Something happens and she just refuses to talk to him ever again, and then flash forward to a year later, then he's trying to get her back. It had no chance after Fourth Wing, honestly. It had no chance. That was the last book that I read for these past 2 months. And I think that brings us to the end of this September and August reading wrap up. We had some amazing books. I think I said, what did I say? We have 12 books that I read these past 2 months, and I am just so excited to continue the Shatter Me series. So excited to read Iron Flame, and it's just, I feel like it was a very good couple of reading months. So yes, that is gonna be it from me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.